And that is that really struggled to try to decide what poems I was going to read to you tonight. And that's because it's been such a hard week, a hard month, a hard year. And I wanted to bring you fun and celebratory poems that are in my book, which, by the way, is a poetry newspaper with sections like a newspaper: international news, arts and entertainment, book review, etc. Okay, and here's the turn. Connie and I had decided a while back to read about childhood trauma. And I didn't want to go in another direction. And I'm also feeling so traumatized by what's going on here and in the world. Celebration didn't really feel authentic to me. So I decided to stay with the trauma theme. And what I decided to do is tell you a little bit about why I write about child abuse and other traumas, why I think it's important to read it, to read about it, and how it ends up being healing. So with each poem, I will tell you a little bit about the emotions that were flowing through me when I wrote it, and how the poem helped me heal one poem at a time. So as a therapist, I can tell you that the idea of healing is to feel the feelings. And that's the thing none of us really wants to do, right? Especially in the middle of traumatic times. And so what the poem can do is contain everything on the page, so it can be experienced in small increments. And so hopefully what I'm going to read is going to illustrate this for you. So, so the first one is, it's called The Human Tragedy. I'll give you an idea about this one. It's in the international news section of the book. And this one starts with realization, moves to grief, and then helplessness. And that's where it wanted to go, and it wanted to stay there. And that was actually healing for me. So The Human Tragedy. And here's the epigraph. Dandelions, kept alive by the finest gardeners in the world who knew how to work against nature. Jack Gilbert. You can only avoid it for so long. Like reading a story set in pre-war France, knowing something terrible will happen to the lovely Jewish characters. Why do you read it? When you started, it was a happy story. Good fortune draws you in. Love starts off loudly, calling with the ecstasy of a requiem, only you don't want to realize that beauty leads to the grief until it happens. More and more of this these days. More of the people gathering, the bombs gushing off, the dead and the survivors. No need to explain what fear feels like. It's in you. It's sitting beside you. It's in the backs of the gardeners as they bend over the plain yellow flowers, weeding out everything else that wants to grow. Thank you. Okay, so so the next one, thank you. The next one is in the travel section. So this one starts off with wonder, goes to dread, and then watch what happens at the end. And here's the epigraph. Penumbra. Because in this world, you have to decide what you're willing to kill. And that's from Tony Hoagland. Saving yourself means getting the glasses that let you watch the moon cover the sun. You drive or fly to the dot on the map. For a couple of minutes, it's night, then day again. You imagine all this, alone, just you and the dark that is light. The moon, now a black song, backed up by blazing jazz, surging jazz, drunked up jazz. It won't last. Like your parents, smiling in the camera's flash. Did they decide to try killing you breath by breath? Or were they living in their own night's gloom, and you, planet of heartbreak, orbiting skies clouded with shame? Then the girl at the sleepover you thought would stay, curly hair backlit by a flashlight. How the lover climbed over your being and left you. When the spheres of your body began to inflame. Saving yourself means looking through grief's lens, its totality, wax and wane, a shadow, its translucence, means feeling the moon start to rise, the earth turn. Okay, and then this is the next to last one. So this one is in the obituary section. And uh, so, so this one starts off with synchronicity, you know, like where a coincidence happens and it kind of doesn't feel just like a coincidence. And then there's death, grief, and the healing connection at the end. Phlebotomy for Jack Riddle. He introduces himself just before the needle. My name is Rodel, he says, after my dead brother, Rodelio. I offer my arm and the blood slips into his vials, too needed this time. My brother died at 3 months, he says, 50 years ago in the Philippines, my only brother. I don't usually watch the red liquid from my body course into the tube. Today, I want to see it fill up the ampules that will bear it to the lab. Is it thick as the blood between these Asian brothers? I ask him, was there a reason he told me this today? How he couldn't have known about you, your also long lost brother, the poem you sent me just an hour before. Your brother dead in the womb so many years ago. The brothers neither of you would ever have, both of you only sons. Rodel, 30, you past 70. How the two of you became friends through my blood. My blood, on the way to the lab, coagulated into numbers of discovery, useful information, possible hope. Your brother's hemoglobin in your bodies forever. Blood brothers. Stories of possibility lost in the dirt of death. Sports never played, careers never found. No teaching how to throw a ball, how to lose your homework. How you both live on in their shade, their voices whispering about what could have been. My blood on the way to its future, all blood transfused with the ways of our losses, our passage. Okay, and then this is the last one. So this one is not in the book, it's a new poem. So this one takes us to compassion and empathy. That's the healer's destination. And so we have the cycle of healing, which goes through all of the other feelings and ends and comes to here and then cycles through again. Wish it were easier. And this is called Speech Blockade for Jerome Ellis, who gets up to speak at a poetry reading before a large live audience where no one knows the glottal block in his throat, puts up a stop sign mid-sentence, then minutes of silence ensue. The speaker stays in place, his goal to say the words, stand up tall, not disappoint himself. Those harsh letters hardest, the G's, the crack of a K at the start of the word, or J judge, or B brutal. Still he forms the sound, stays in the light like a seedling that grows through concrete, force of refusal to quit. Could have hidden behind his musical genius, his gifts, the saxophone, piano, improv, songs for a psalm, a Broadway play. Apartment, concerts in his 250 square foot apartment in Brooklyn, one a Sabbath sound bath, everyone in bathrobes, a cleansing. Signs his name, Jerome. Could have fled in shame from the microphone, I imagine, as I hear his voice on the radio. He's not ashamed, not even afraid. See the audience hanging there, waiting for that next word. Sweet, clear, beauty in the breaking. Each performance a pilgrimage. He says it's a supplication, a prayer for the words to come. Waiting for the words on the altar of the stage, the audience, his followers. Come, let us find these moments of grace, hearts dilated with admiration for the best of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now, get into this mode. I'm loving this, trying to press the right buttons.